Good afternoon. My name is Marika Schroeder, bringing you the latest developments from around the globe. US President Donald Trump has halted Project Freedom as his administration works on finalizing a deal with the Iranian regime to end the conflict in the Middle East. Announced in a Truth Social post on Wednesday, the president stated that at the request of Pakistan and other nations, US CENTCOM forces will pause their operations, escorting neutral merchant vessels out of the strait. However, the naval blockade on Iranian vessels and ports remain in place.
But we're doing very well in Iran. It's going very smoothly, and we'll see what happens. They want to make a deal. They want to negotiate. And I think that military mothers would want to hear that. Do you agree? I think it's appropriate. Somebody would say, oh, that's not appropriate. I think military mothers want to hear about this stuff. And we have the greatest military that we've ever had. We have the greatest military in the world by far. There's nobody even close. And I think we've displayed that. I built the military in my first term, much of it. It was when I inherited the military, it was like when I inherited the border. The border was a mess, and the military was a mess. A lot of you know that because you were there to witness it, and now we have the strongest military that we've ever had. We're just getting a approval of $1.5 trillion to upgrade our military still further. But when I was spending all that money in my first term, it was a great term, a very unbelievable term. We had the best economic numbers that the country's ever had. Now we're going to blow them away. We're blowing them away right now. But I built the military in my first term with the help of a lot of great admirals, generals, and everybody else. And I didn't know we'd be using it quite so much, but that's okay, and whatever it is, because in the case of Iran, we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And we're not going to let that happen. And we're much, and we'll see whether or not they can make a deal that's satisfactory to us. We have it very much under control. The blockade is unbelievable. The Navy's been incredible. The job they did is like a wall of steel. Nobody goes through. In particular, the Iranians, they're not getting anything through one way or the other, so they're out of business. Thereafter, so that's the way it is. And I thought you might want to have a little rundown now. The fake news is all happy because they can hear what we had to say. And I have to say, JD's doing a fantastic job. He's working with us, with him and all of the team, Marco, and we have Steve Witkoff, Jared. We have a whole group, the generals, and General Kane has been fantastic. Pete Hegseth, incredible. We have just a great group of people. CIA, John Ratcliffe, he's great. I think Mrs. Ratcliffe's even here someplace. And are you here, Mrs. Ratcliffe? I think somebody said yes. But we have amazing people. We have an amazing military. And I think it's on display. Sometimes you'd rather not have it be on display, but they're there for a purpose. And the greatest military anywhere in the world. And the world is watching us as we do our thing. And
President Trump has since disclosed that Iran has agreed that it cannot have a nuclear weapon. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office on Wednesday, the US Commander-in-Chief reiterated that Tehran is desperate for a deal, while America remains in good shape.
You're facing an opponent right now in Iran that has refused to submit. You seem optimistic now that you may be closer to a deal. What's different about this moment now than in other moments where a deal has seemed close?
well, why do you say they refused to submit? You don't know that. You don't know what's going on.
They were firing on U.S. ships a few days ago.
Yeah, no, a few days ago is a long time ago. You know, in the world of war, a few days ago. No, they want to make a deal badly, and we'll see if we get there. If we get there, they can't have nuclear weapons. You know, it's very simple. But what's not to submit? So they had a Navy with 159 ships, and now every blown to pieces and lying at the bottom of the water. They had an air force, lots of planes, and they don't have any planes. They don't have any anti-aircraft. They don't have any radar left. Their missiles are mostly decimated. They have some. They have probably eight all dead. So I think we won. Now it's only a question of, look, if we left right now Iran, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. You would call that, we're in good shape, right?
Fantastic.
We're in good shape. And now we're doing well. Now we have to get what we have to get. If we don't do that, we'll have to go a big step further. But with that being said, they want to make a deal. We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours. And it's very possible that we'll make a deal.
So,
Yeah,
Mr.
please.
President, thank you, Mr. President. It's good to see you. What are the status of these talks? You said they're very good. Could you just give us some insight as to where we are with them at this point?
And we've had some good talks before, as you know.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the next day, they're like, they forgot what happened.
As the US administration is pursuing a peace deal, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated on Wednesday during a security cabinet meeting that he wasn't caught off guard by the recent developments in negotiations between the US and Iran because he remains in continued communication with President Trump. However, while President Trump is hopeful for a deal, Israel remains prepared for any scenario.
אני משוחח עם הנשיא טראמפ כמעט על בסיס יומיומי. האנשים שלי והאנשים שלו משוחחים על בסיס יומיומי, כולל היום. ואני אדבר יותר מאוחר גם עם הנשיא טראמפ הלילה. יש בינינו תיאום מלא, אין הפתעות. אנחנו חולקים יעדים משותפים, והיעד החשוב ביותר הוא הצעת החומר המועשר מאיראן, כל החומר המועשר, ופירוק יכולות ההעשרה באיראן. הנשיא טראמפ מאמין שהוא יכול להשיג את זה בדרך זו או בדרך אחרת. אנחנו אבל ערוכים לכל תרחיש, וזו ההנחיה שלי גם לצה"ל ולגורמי הביטחון שלנו.
France is repositioning its Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier strike group towards the Red Sea, positioning it for a potential Franco-British multinational escort mission in the Strait of Hormuz. On Wednesday, President Emmanuel Macron spoke with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian in a phone call, demanding the immediate and unconditional lifting of the Strait of Hormuz blockade. Despite the US's Project Freedom, Macron is instead pursuing his own independent European initiative, claiming that a European-led mission would help restore confidence among ship owners and insurers. Stay tuned and we'll be right back after this short break with more on the latest global developments.
King's Conference online conferencing platform that allows you to have up to 1,000 users. All you need is an internet connection, and with our low data consumption, this is easier than ever. And a device, whether it's an iPhone, an Android, on a call with friends and loved ones and use our emoji reaction to have the best time online. Take your work anywhere King's Conference. Whether you're working from home, working in a coffee shop, or even on a beach or in the park, stay connected to all of your work meetings using King's Conference. Use our scheduling system to make sure you never miss a meeting again. You can invite other KingShot users to your meeting and they'll receive a notification in their inbox. Also, you have all of your meetings in one place with King's Conference. Whether it's a meeting you've been invited to or one that you've scheduled yourself, they're all listed out for you so you'll never miss a meeting again. Go to kingsconference.app and schedule your first meeting today. King's Conference. Stay connected.
Romanian President Nicos Erdan has begun consultations to form a new government after the country's pro-EU administration collapsed on Tuesday, following a no-confidence vote. Prime Minister Eli Bolojan's coalition was removed in a 281-4 vote. Sudan dismissed the possibility of early elections and insisted that Romania would emerge from the process with another firmly pro-EU administration.
At a press briefing in Bucharest, Romanian President Nicușor Dan addressed the nation following the collapse of the government after a parliamentary vote of no confidence. Speaking after the dismissal of Prime Minister Ilie Bolojan's pro-European cabinet, Dan acknowledged that the development was a difficult moment for Romania's democracy, but emphasized that it was a legitimate parliamentary decision. He urged calm across the country, stressing that state institutions remain fully functional and that Romania continues to follow a stable democratic path. The president also addressed public concerns over corruption, governance, and daily living conditions, saying these issues would be central in upcoming consultations with political parties. He confirmed that he would begin informal talks to help form a new governing majority in the coming period. Dan reassured citizens that a new government would be formed within a reasonable time frame and ruled out the possibility of early elections. He also stressed that the next administration would maintain a pro-Western orientation, signaling continuity in Romania's foreign policy direction. Despite the political uncertainty, the president sought to project stability, stating that Romania would navigate the transition calmly and in accordance with democratic procedures while ensuring governance continuity and economic commitments remain on track.
With Russia's Victory Day celebrations around the corner, the Kremlin has issued an evacuation warning to foreign diplomatic missions and representatives of international organizations that find themselves in Kyiv. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova has reiterated the Defense Ministry's alert, citing potential retaliatory strikes on Ukraine in the event that President Volodymyr Zelensky chooses to carry out his threats of attacking Moscow amid the celebrations.
Министерство иностранных дел Российской Федерации сообщает о том, что во все аккредитованные при МИД зарубежные дипломатические миссии и представительства международных организаций была направлена нота следующего содержания. Цитирую. 4 мая 2026 года Министерство обороны Российской Федерации опубликовало официальное заявление в связи с угрозами киевского режима нанести удар по Москве в священный для всех россиян праздник День Победы в Великой Отечественной войне. МИД России настоятельно призывает власти вашей страны, руководство вашей организации с максимальной ответственностью отнестись к данному заявлению и обеспечить заблаговременную эвакуацию из города Киев персонала дипломатических и иных представительств, а также граждан в связи с неотвратимостью нанесения вооруженными силами Российской Федерации ответного удара по Киеву, в том числе по центрам принятия решений в случае реализации киевским режимом своих преступных террористических замыслов в дни празднования Великой Победы. Конец цитаты. Также российские дипломатические представительства за рубежом информируют об этом страны аккредитации и международные организации.
Let's take a recap of today's headlines. Rapathon Day 4, celebrating the Word of God and the spread of the Gospel.
It's always an opportunity to celebrate the Word of God. Celebrate the Word of God and the amazing things that we are doing around the world with the Word.
US pauses naval escort operations as Iran deal negotiations advance.
But we're doing very well in Iran. It's going very smoothly, and we'll see what happens. They want to make a deal. They want to negotiate. And I think that military mothers would want to hear that. Do you agree? I think it's appropriate. Somebody would say, "Oh, that's not appropriate." I think military mothers want to hear about this stuff.
Romania moves to form new governments after no confidence vote topples cabinets.
At a press briefing in Bucharest, Romanian President Nicușor Dan addressed the nation following the collapse of the government after a parliamentary vote of no confidence.
Kremlin issues evacuation warning for Kyiv ahead of Victory Day celebrations.
4 мая 2026 года Министерство обороны Российской Федерации опубликовало официальное заявление в связи с угрозами киевского режима нанести удар по Москве в священный для всех россиян праздник День Победы в Великой Отечественной войне.
And with that, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the news. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marika Schroeder and this is Alan24 International, bringing you news that is truth, the pulse of trusted analysis. Until next time, goodbye.